Support for Seattle Now comes from Lazarus Naturals CBD. Since 2014, maker of non-GMO, hemp-derived CBD products. From the farm to the front door, all of their products are made in the Northwest and crafted in-house, allowing for end-to-end control. They offer a full line of topicals, tinctures, and pet products at LazarusNaturals.com.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Thursday, and this is Seattle Now. There's no denying Seattle is a left-leaning town, but head east to the other side of Washington, where voters are far more conservative. The economy trumps the coronavirus as the top issue, and the Black Lives Matter protests barely register. In a minute, KUOW's Anna King shares her notes from a 5-day road trip chronicling voter concerns in eastern Washington and Oregon. But first, let's get you caught up. Boeing says more workers will lose their jobs. In July, the company said the collapse in demand for airliners would force it to cut 10% of the workforce. Now, Boeing plans to reduce its employee headcount by an additional 11,000, including 7,000 layoffs. The company expects their office space needs to be reduced by 30%. Boeing also said the grounded 737 MAX is expected to gain approval from safety regulators next month. Coronavirus cases in South King County are disturbingly high, according to public health officials. Positive testing results have hovered around 3% for most of King County, but the Auburn testing site and other South King County locations have seen positive return rates of nearly 13%. Public health is urging vigilance. Meanwhile, a new report released this week by the Washington Department of Health found that statewide cases and hospitalizations are on the rise. And Seahawks have a new defensive end. The team made a trade to get veteran Carlos Dunlap from the Cincinnati Bengals 6 days before the NFL's trade deadline. The trade comes after the team's first loss of the season on Sunday to the Arizona Cardinals. Coach Pete Carroll acknowledged Seahawks need some help with their defense. It can be hard to be a Republican in Seattle. It's a political bubble, and it's pretty blue. But even in eastern Washington, where political leanings bend toward conservative and where the Spokesman review reluctantly endorsed President Trump, Republicans seem wary. KUOW's Anna King, on assignment, traveled 1,000 miles through 5 small towns in eastern Washington and Oregon. She captured some of the ways Republican voters are thinking about the election and the Trump presidency. And just a warning, there's some homophobic language coming up. Anna, great to talk to you.
Good to be back, Patricia.
All right. Now, these are the kind of assignments I lived for as a reporter. 5 days, 5 towns. Where did you stop off and what'd you find along the way?
I saw 5 sunrises and 1,000 miles on my way to Colfax, not far from the Idaho border, the Dalles, Mission, Oregon, on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Reservation, Walla Walla, and Mattawa near the Columbia River.
Nice. All right. So on your road trip, you met a lot of people who were voting for Trump, but your reporting revealed it was a little complicated. What did you hear and what surprised you?
You know, I was struck by how everything is changing out here in the rural eastern Washington and rural eastern Oregon. The leaves are starting to fall in these beautiful circle patterns underneath the trees. The wind is blowing. The stormy and threatening snow clouds coming off of the Blue Mountains. Everything is changing, and I think everything is changing in our country. And we need to listen to voices in rural America just as hard as we're listening to folks in the cities to truly understand the pattern and the makeup of the quilt that makes America. And, you know, I can't tell by looking at someone who they're voting for. A guy I was sure was for Trump was one of the most ardent Biden supporters I met all week. And a huge public radio fan that surprised me was saying that he was voting for Trump. Steve Warwick was one man I met over in Colfax. He lost his coffee shop this spring right as the pandemic hit, and he's planning on voting Republican.
I've been working for 55 years. I believe everybody should get up and go to work. I don't think we should support people that don't want to get up and go to work. Do I think Trump's going to win? No. But I'm going to vote for him. Everybody points the finger at him because he's the one that's in office and everybody wants to blame everything on him. But we'll see. I'll be surprised if he wins. I'll be surprised if it's close.
So Steve Warwick certainly didn't like the president's prospects this election, but another voter I spoke to, Pamela Sutherland, told me how she was voting.
Well, I'm hoping that Trump wins. No, I'm not crazy about him, but I think he's a lot better than Biden. So
I asked Pamela why she was voting for Trump when she felt so lukewarm about the president.
Well, I care about moral issues, social issues. Those are my main things, social issues. Like homosexuality and morality and religious rights and things like that.
It's so interesting that voters you might typically think of as Trump's base, religious, right-leaning, economy-first voters, would be so apathetic about the president and his prospects. You visited Colfax, which is an agricultural town, and you found plenty of people voting for Trump, but there was one farmer who went against the crowd. Tell me about him.
So I walked across the parking lot to this guy named Chris Boyd, and he was this massive burly man. He was wearing overalls and he was walking towards his aluminum fishing boat. And I was dead sure that this was going to be a Trump voter. And then he turned around and was totally for Biden. He was so for Biden that he changed his voter registration to Washington so that his vote would count more, he said. And he was just so ardently against Trump.
Getting rid of Trump. He's the crookedest bastard I've ever seen since Nixon.
That is fascinating, Anna. You also encountered a little bit of fear from some voters that you met in these small towns. What's behind that?
Over in Mission, Oregon, by the Blue Mountains, this Umatilla reservation town, I found that climate change was one of the top worries that came up a lot. And that was also mixed in with concern about the economy. Other people worried about losing their gun rights and things like that. But one resident I spoke to had this broad anxiety about the outcome of the election.
I'm worried that not enough people will get out to vote. I'm worried we could have 4 more years of the same president. That's my biggest worry. I want my vote to take us in a different direction.
I think, Anna, whether you vote Democrat or Republican, there is a tremendous amount of anxiety around this election, no matter how you see the outcome. The other thing that seems to be on everyone's mind is the pandemic. What did you hear from voters about that?
A lot of people were worried about the pandemic because they were worried that it was not being handled well, and that they saw this real danger to their families. But now, the Trump voters were more like, the pandemic is fine, he's handling it well, what else do you want? It's just a hard situation. And I met a guy named Jesus in Mattawa, Washington, and he said he can't vote. He's applied for his citizenship, but he's still waiting. He told me if he could vote, he'd vote for change.
I think Biden. I saw Trump in those last 4 years, and probably I'm going to try something different. Now I know him.
Jesus told me the pandemic has had some positives for him.
Creo que esto que pasó con el coronavirus nos ayudó a entender que la vida vaya más despacio, que podemos frenarnos, que podemos vivir una vida más tranquila.
That's Jesus explaining that the coronavirus has helped him understand that life should go slower, that we should slow down and live a quieter life.
I think a lot of us are feeling new insights into our lives because of the pandemic, Anna. And it's so easy to stay insulated in this blue bubble we live in here in Seattle, and Western Washington and Eastern Washington have a bit of a culture clash relationship. I'm curious, Anna, from your reporting, what people in Western Washington might not understand about Eastern Washington. What can we learn?
There is real unity in this big problem, the economy, and then closely followed by the problem of the coronavirus and healthcare. All 3 of those things were intertwined in the comments that I heard throughout those 5 cities. There was also worry over the election and the future everywhere I went. And so East and West Washingtonians agree on a lot, Patricia.
KUOW's Anna King, great to talk to you about your trip.
Thanks for having me on.
Seattle Now is produced by Sophie Reed, Clare McGrane, Matt Martin, Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Every day, our goal at Seattle Now is to bring you insightful, relevant information about this city and beyond. We're living in challenging times, and we're here, listening. But we can't do this work every day without your support. Pitch in any amount that's right for you by using the donate link in our description. And thanks.